As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road. Let's camera action.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. We know that you could have been any place but here, but you're here with us, so we really appreciate it. 103.5 WNHH, the Tom Ficklin Show. I want to give a shout out to Tom Ficklin for allowing us to utilize his platform and the great Harry Drives for assisting us with the production. Today, we'll be talking about the Connecticut Pardons Coalition and pardons in general and the benefit to individuals who've been formerly incarcerated and Connecticut community overall. All right, my name is Earl Bloodworth and I'm happy to be here. Today I have guest Tiana Hercules Esquire joining me, also known as Lady Jane. And shortly thereafter, or in conjunction, we'll have Mr. Devin Kempson, okay? So let's begin. Tiana, hi, how are you?
Hey, Earl, good morning. I'm feeling great, and I'm just gonna send a little shout out to Tom for, holding this forum and allowing us the opportunity to speak. I love Tom. He's a great an impactful person in our community. So it's sad that he's not here, but happy that you're holding down the fort in his stead.
Absolutely. Tom is very interesting and admirable individual. So we appreciate the utilization of this platform and allowing us to get this great word out today. So with that being said, I have some questions, but would you like to tell the world a little bit about yourself as Ms. Tiana Hercules Esquire and also Lady Jane?
Sure, I'll be brief. I'm currently a criminal defense attorney, but I am slowly retiring out of that role. I've been a lawyer for, I think, over 20 years at this point, or almost, or close to it. And so criminal defense has been my primary practice area. It's what I always wanted to do. And it's my small way of magnifying some of the issues that are, prevalent in our communities and communities of color, Black communities particularly, in the way that we are disproportionately represented in the criminal legal system. And so advancing my voice to advance justice and really illuminate the humanity of those that I serve and represent in that capacity has been a real honor and a privilege for sure. And however, as a criminal defense attorney, our wins, while they are mightily won, they don't always, rack up. And so I wanted to figure out how to be on the other side of that. And so being inspired by the pardons process and really what that opportunity can lend and lead to in someone's life encouraged me to use my skills and talent to provide that service for free to individuals in our community who have worked really hard to put their criminal past behind them, but may have some issues and some troubles navigating the process because it can be overwhelming. And if you're someone who has, of course, gone through the criminal legal system, you obviously don't have a very good sentiment towards it. And so wanting to interface with that system again can certainly be something that you're not like gung-ho to do. And so, so through the Lady Jane platform, which is my cannabis brand, we also provide expungement clinics, pardons assistance. Through that, we've had 4 expungement clinics so far throughout the state. I have another one tomorrow in Bloomfield. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, it's been a really rewarding opportunity to not only meet individuals with varied stories and life trajectories, but really to help people through this process. And so yeah, that's what I do pretty much through that umbrella. I'm also a cannabis entrepreneur. I have 3 cannabis licenses, 2 in retail and 1 in cultivation that will be soon online. So I'm really excited about that because that enables me to provide workforce and job opportunities for the individuals through my community, my brothers and sisters in the state of Connecticut. So a little bit about me. But my most, I guess, beloved and honored role, of course, is that of a mom to three amazing children. And yeah.
Absolutely. Happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So today, we're here to talk about Connecticut Pardons Day. And if you could tell us a little bit about that and the Connecticut Pardons Coalition, which I am honored to be a part of. What inspired you to host a pardons clinic during Juneteenth week? And how does that tie into your cannabis business?
Yeah, so Juneteenth is all about recognizing, freedom for everyone, right? And um, I think we all hold the ethos that, none of us are free unless we all are. And I am someone who fully believes that even once you are past your criminal past and, have served your sentence, if that stigma still remains on your record, you are, in a sense, still caught up in the system and you're not totally free of your past, and an absolute pardon is the way to really access total freedom and restore your rights. I think as Black and brown people and people who have been marginalized and oppressed, we have to do everything within our power to ensure that we're not selling ourselves short in any capacity, whether that be voting, whether that be the right to carry a firearm, whether that be the right to engage in any civic process, travel anywhere throughout the world. And so having a criminal record presents barriers. And so the inspiration to host it during Juneteenth was that we have this, this day that symbolizes freedom in this process that also is a way to access freedom. And so bringing those two things together can be a powerful platform that I think will resonate with a lot of people, because Juneteenth is something more new here in Connecticut. If you grew up in the South, probably was more part of your culture and your upbringing. But in Connecticut, it wasn't something that we really celebrated in our communities. And so it's a way to really make it tangible and more meaningful for people.
Thank you very much. Next question I would ask you is, where do you see, or how do you see the intersection between cannabis legalization and criminal justice reform, particularly as it relates to the state of Connecticut?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts about this, but I'll try to be as succinct as possible. So
Sure.
certainly as the state was contemplating legalizing cannabis, it seemed like criminal legal system reform was somewhat of an afterthought, and where that should have been at the forefront. Certainly I'm all about business. I'm all about enterprise, and I'm all about people making money and, doing innovative things in industry. But because this particular industry has such a storied past with respect to racism and oppression and marginalizing people of color and being weaponized, being a way to, use pretext, the smell of burnt marijuana to kick down people's doors and to harass people. Because of all of that, it seemed like that really needed to be addressed first before we jumped into now folks can make a bunch of money in this industry. And so the war on drugs. And so, my motivation has always been to keep that at the forefront until we are to a point where we're truly redressing the harms from that drug war. And so one of the things that I do appreciate about Connecticut's regulatory scheme is that, the tax revenue from the industry is going to directly impact those communities. We all have a commitment as license holders and business operators to partner with our communities and to reinvest into the needs of the community. And so as long as those things stay ever present and are done with fidelity, I think we will get to a point where we are turning the tide with respect to some of that past harm. But obviously some of that past harm is so generational that it will never be undone. What we can do is recognize it and do our best to fill in the gaps that were created as a result of the war on drugs. So, I do see Connecticut making an effort, but I think it's our duty and responsibility as those of us in this industry and those of us like yourselves who are champions for criminal legal reform to always make sure that that trumpet is never silent.
I totally agree with you. It basically, like you said, they were putting the cart before the horse with all the folks that have been impacted and marginalized by the war on drugs and criminalized. To some of the states' credit and also our administration and the legislative body, they did enact, not necessarily implement, but they did enact the clean slate legislation, which did pass in 2021. Unfortunately, it's kind of been slow walked and bogged down by technical issues. So everybody who should be benefiting from it has not been able to benefit from it. But at least initially, the first 13,000 folks that had their records automatically expunged from the clean slate legislation, it was a focus on those who were impacted by marijuana. And then to your point about the Social Equity Commission and giving back to those impacted communities with some of the tax revenue from cannabis, I believe that was also a good idea. But as you said, we need to keep a focus on the powers that be to maintain the fidelity of what has been laid out. I think the other thing I had concerns about with the legalization of marijuana and cannabis was that from what I've seen and read and what that has taken place in other states where marijuana was legalized was the fact that folks that didn't look like us were mainly capitalizing on the legalization, and the capital to buy in, to get licenses and all that jazz, was such a high barrier for so many people that look like us that have been impacted negatively by the war on drugs.
Yeah, that is definitely an astute observation, and certainly it is a criticism. I can't say it's so much a criticism of the state, because really the industry has morphed into this thing where it is really inaccessible unless you have deep pockets or partner with a deep pocket partner. And
That's about
so
3 million for the buy-in almost, right?
yeah, 3 million for the cultivation license, just to receive the provisional license, so that you're already operating 3 million in the red. And so yeah, like that's an amalgamation of the industry itself, and Connecticut responding to pretty much what where the industry is at, unfortunately. But I want to go back to something that you said about just the war on drugs in general and its impact on the community, because to be honest, before this cannabis kind of thing started unfolding here in Connecticut, the war on drugs for us what did not mean marijuana. The war on drugs for us was crack cocaine and all of the ills that came with that. And so it's just interesting. Like I'm a observer of like history and propaganda and the way that things the way narratives change. And so I would be I want us to address that, because I feel like that is what's keeping us from really getting to the root of a lot of the issues. Because even when you go to communities and you mention the war on drugs and you link it to cannabis, you'll get like some quizzical looks, like, what are we talking about here?
Right.
Because the war on drugs, the way it manifested in our communities, as we now know, was over policing, removing parents, fathers from the home, mothers being left to fend for themselves, and communities that were under resourced and utilizing crack cocaine as a way to address mental health and trauma and depression and all of that stuff, right? And so we have never addressed that. And I don't know that even with this regulatory scheme under the cannabis, guise of redressing harms from the war on drugs, that we're getting to any of that. We aren't, actually. I do know we aren't. And so, we are now, in a place where we're rightfully so focusing on opioid addiction and how that has destroyed largely suburban families and communities. And I'm not saying that doesn't need to be focused there, but that drug war that we all experienced in the, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and probably the early 2000s, that was really rolled out by tough on crime policy from pretty much the same people who still got in office now, all the way up to the national level, that has never been addressed and never been even talked about from a policy standpoint about how we undo or address these harms. And so, I don't want to sit here and pretend or like I'm not cognizant of that, because I am a product of that time period. And while I want to steadfastly and wholeheartedly do my part as a business owner, as someone who cares about her community, we also can't drop the ball on that message, because I feel like it's just not being discussed enough, and we're kind of glossing over it as if now that cannabis is legal, we're addressing the war on drugs. No, we are not, because cannabis wasn't really the thing that destroyed our communities. So
no, absolutely not. I don't, and I don't want to be misinterpreted in regards to stating, and conflating that marijuana was the cause
not at all.
the degradation of our community based on the war on drugs. But what I will say is folks who have been arrested on minor charges with marijuana are impacted lifelong once you have that misdemeanor or that felony, whether
Absolutely.
it's possession or intent to sell. So in that regards, I would say the kind of paradigm shift around marijuana in the state of Connecticut and nationally is helpful for those folks who were caught in that net and have a criminal record because of marijuana possession, or folks who have been on parole or probation and being remanded back to prison because of marijuana. Sure. So in that vein, yeah. But absolutely, this is the impact of the war on drugs in our community has not been fully addressed. And quite honestly, you mentioned the opioid epidemic. I think that juxtaposing that to the war on drugs, it's a slap in the face. And I'm not discounting the harm that the pharmaceutical companies have brought on families. But what I'm saying is, or what I am attempting to convey is, the issues and the solutions were not equally met. So the issues of opioids were met as far as solutions with, these people need help. It's an issue, it's a problem, it's not a moral failing. Whereas crack cocaine was looked at as a moral failing. You had the same amount of crack cocaine as powder cocaine, and they were sentenced very differently.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm saying is like, and I definitely wasn't saying that you were saying it. I just think kind of like the general conversation about this glosses over that it's like we go to cannabis, we overlook this part with crack cocaine in the sentencing disparities, and then we go to the opioid epidemic, and we don't recognize that both of those provide a framework by which to look at this time period with more humanity, with more compassion, so that we can get to addressing it, like you said, not looking at it as a moral failing. And because as long as we do that, right, as long as we're able to do that, then we don't have to address it, because we're not looking at folks who are caught up in this as human beings, as having dignity, as being worthy of being reinvested in. And so that's what kind of keeps us from really getting to the work that needs to be done. So yeah. No,
I think we're both on the same page. I think how the opioid epidemic was handled vastly different than the crack epidemic. And then also, while there are folks that look like you and me that did have or do have issues with opioids, the vast majority was not people that look like us. And part of that is systemic racism, in my opinion, because they wouldn't prescribe that type of pain medication to us, because even today it's still taught that for some reason we can bear more pain than any other ethnicity or race.
Exactly. Imagine in this one instance, it's racism that actually prevented us from having more harm. Who would have thought?
Who knew?
It's crazy, but yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So yeah.
Okay. And I know we could go back and forth on this all day. I do want to get our man Devin in. I want to talk more about the pardon process. You've been running some successful clinics. You have one taking place in Bloomfield this weekend. We'll get that information out. There's a web page for Connecticut Pardons Day or CT Pardons Day. There's an Instagram page. We want people to get involved, as stakeholders, as people who want more information, who need the assistance. So we want to definitely talk more about that. So you've helped Devin get his partner. So I'd definitely like to get him. Devin, are you there? You want to hop on and we can start talking about your connectivity with Barrister Hercules and definitely interested in hearing how that process, as your pre and post pardon process life looked and has been. How are you doing today, sir? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Tiana. I say the pardon was a huge change, especially coming from the community that I come from. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, but it don't matter what community you change when you're able to get a second chance. Listen, the power that a felony have over someone's life is tremendous. It dictates where you can live. It dictates if you're able to vote, where you can work, where you can sit at. You know, just people knowing that you have a felony or you made a mistake or made a bad decision is life changing, because it scrutinizes you and it takes you out of a lot of opportunities. It takes you out of a lot of circles, and it really is a big roadblock that most of us never get over. You know, we have people that, you know, that pass away with that stigma of having a criminal record, and they might have made a mistake when they was younger, or they might have did what they felt like they had to do to survive. And this is something that, you know, that they're known by. You know, so the pardon is tremendous. It's huge to get another lease on life, a second chance, because we're from communities where we don't get first chances. You know, we talk about the war on drugs. We talk about like all these laws that was made that really hurted our communities, really set us back. You know, it wasn't to help, it was an attack. So now given a chance to have a pardon and get a second chance to get our life together and stuff like that is an amazing thing.
Absolutely. You mentioned getting a second chance, and I know in some instances, based on the choices some people have made, and granted they were poor choices, but they shouldn't define them for a lifetime. And in some instances, people made these choices, as you said, to survive. They never really had a first chance. So getting a pardon definitely can kind of take that yoke from around your neck and help to remove that scarlet letter that forces you to miss out on opportunity. There's a huge opportunity cost for individuals who have a criminal record permanently. Even after you served your sentence and did your time and paid your debt to society, you're still left kind of outside of the normal realm of the general population, even though you're trying to reintegrate back into the community. Totally understandable. So how did you and Tiana connect?
Well, somebody initially got the flyer. They initially took the class first, somebody that I know, and they sent me the flyer. They said, yo, you know, try this out. And I wasn't optimistic about it due to my criminal history and due to feeling like we don't get any chances. You know, to get a pardon, it was a time where you heard about people going up for pardons. Out of 20 people, they'd be lucky if one person got it. So I wasn't too optimistic about it. But I said, you know what? Let me try it. The worst thing they could do is say no. You know, I was already working, and I was already getting into the community and stuff like that, and doing community activism work and stuff like that. Because when I came home, I just wanted to be a good father and a productive member of society. That was my goal. I never thought about no pardon. You know, that doesn't happen to us. You know, second chance like that, a huge second chance like that. So I never thought about that. But I seen the flyer. I did what I needed to do as far as filling out everything, and I got in contact. I went to the clinic. The clinic was beautiful, it was very helpful, and me and Tiana started going back and forth from there. She was very engaged. She let me know that, listen, this is what we're doing. It ain't just about lip service. It ain't about money. It ain't about statistics. It ain't about numbers. I felt like she was doing it because this was something that she believed in. It didn't seem as if, oh, here it is, another program again, or here it is another, that just need bodies or that just need numbers. So as I started going along with the process, I started believing in it more. And I'm like, well, wait, maybe this can happen. You understand what I'm saying? So I started believing in myself. I knew what I was already doing, but I didn't know if that would be good enough. Because once again, like I said, I wasn't doing it for no pardon. The pardon was just a plus. So that's how I got hooked up with Tiana, and we went in front of the board. I got asked a million questions, but it worked out for me. I was granted a full pardon, and that was tremendous. That was huge. Yeah, yes, definitely, yes.
I would say, you said, it wasn't really on your radar. You just wanted to come home, be a good father to your child. But the thing that you said that struck me the most is, the worst anybody can do is say no. You have to ask the question. And I'm a firm believer that a closed mouth does not get fed. Tiana, with you working on this process and being intimately connected to the intricacies of applying for a full pardon and knowing the weight of its importance, they don't make the process easy. In fact, my understanding was that actually during the pandemic in 2020, in June of 2020, during the pandemic, they transferred the entire process to an online process. So it was already a tedious process to begin with. Now you have folks that may have or may experience the whole online process as entirely an additional barrier or obstacle to even starting the process, let alone completing.
Yeah, I can sit in a place of privilege and be like, oh, it's online, that's so much easier, right? But it's maybe more efficient, right? But definitely not easier. As you pointed out, people have barriers to Wi-Fi, to technology, to being computer literate. And just to share, hey Devin, can I ask you to mute your mic?
Yes.
Thank you. Just to share, what do you call it, data entry part. So I'll give you an example. I think at our first or second clinic, my law school volunteers would put all the information in the application and then it would just erase, and we're not talking,
It's a long application.
It's a long application. And if you have, I have some clients who have about 5 pages worth of convictions.
Yeah.
And so you're putting in docket numbers, you're putting in sentences, you're putting in statutes. And so imagine, someone who's got maybe a job and a half or 2 jobs, they're coming off of work. You see Mr. Kimpson right now, he's got his uniform on, so to have to sit there for an hour only for the daggone thing to fry out and erase all of your information, you're not going to want to do that again. You know what I mean? So having someone who is vested in it in a different way than the client is helpful, because it is a very emotional thing. You do have a lot of doubt. You do feel like a lot is at stake, but then you're like, does it really matter? And you don't want to set yourself up for that type of disappointment. And so, just add that type of technical difficulty to it all, and it just is enough to make a person want to throw in the towel. So one of the things I do plan to do, and I just need to get around to it, is to really send a letter to the powers that be about things that could be improved with this online platform. There's a lot of online platforms that work
way
well.
Better.
This is not one of them. And so we need to improve the efficiency of it, especially if the state is really about that second chance society life and making this process easier for people to access. That would be a huge benefit in making that system more operational, more functional.
I think that's going to be the next advocacy, or one of the next advocacy push, is ameliorating that particular system. So I want to take this moment, and I'll get back to you, Mr. Kimpson, but I do want to take this moment. We are, as the Connecticut Pardons Day Coalition, planning to have a multi-location simultaneous Pardons Day workshop on June 18th, during the week of Juneteenth, and then following up with other workshops and continuing on focusing and working with folks throughout the state. Could you talk a little bit more about what that looks like and how that, we talked about the symbolism of Juneteenth. Just the tediousness of the process, like you just mentioned, with it being online now and going through the application, there's also an emotional and triggering part of that, to get through that journey and get on the other side of it after going through the application process. Meeting with the boards of pardons and parole can take anywhere from 6 to 8 months with this process. And going is, these individuals have served their time. They're trying to get a new lease on life, but going through that process can be triggering and traumatic as well.
Sure. And I think that's where, my goal and my role in those of us who are, volunteering in this regard is really to be a buffer for that trauma for the client and the applicant, and to really kind of help navigate. Mr. Kimson did all the work. You know what I mean? He's the one who came home, changed his mindset, decided I'm not going back. I'm not having further police contact. I'm going to be here for my family. That's the hard work, right? And so when I have clients like that who are doing everything that they can do, the least I can do is make this organizational, tedious process as smooth as possible and be that buffer to interface with the system where, a lot of folks just don't want to. I mean, if it wasn't my job, I probably wouldn't want to talk to prosecutors and parole officers and probation officers as often as I do. Not to say that some of them aren't fine people, but it's just not like the type of crowd that I want to be hanging around with if I didn't have to, right? So I can only imagine for someone who's gone through the system and has had a negative outcome with that system. So yeah, that's part of our role, to give the information in a way that's digestible, very actionable about what the expectation is for the client, because there's certain things obviously we can't do on their behalf, getting fingerprints being one of them, and say, okay, you handle this, this, and this. We're going to take the rest. We're going to need to be in touch regarding these questions, and this is the timeline. And managing those expectations, managing that timeline is really important, in staying in communication. And with more volunteers, that will certainly be a lot easier and more manageable, because when it's just one person trying to, keep track of several dozen applicants at a time, it certainly can become overwhelming. So I'm really excited to be partnering with, under the Connecticut Pardons Day Coalition, where we'll have, advocates and activists like yourself, Mr. Kennard Ray. We'll have other individuals from the state that are working in this criminal legal reform and social justice space, to support and fill in those gaps, and to come arm in arm to just make this initiative even stronger. And so I expect, at the 6 locations that we have secured at the Connecticut State Community Colleges, Capital, as Nuntuck, Housatonic, Gateway, Three Rivers, and Middlesex, I expect just great things to come out of this. I think we're going to walk away from the 18th with more individuals who are empowered in our community, who are then going to go out and tell other people about this process and make it something that's real for other folks in the community who may have thought, it's not for me. I will never get a pardon, because at least the worst thing that can happen is that they say, no, you're not in any worse off position than you were before. But to be able to get a pardon, your life will be completely changed. And so I think it's a worthwhile expedition, although it's not easy. And maybe in some respects it shouldn't be so easy, right? But I think we are helping to make it easier and more accessible, for sure.
Definitely. I agree with you. It proving, that you changed your life and changed your mindset, as you said. It shouldn't be necessarily easy, but it shouldn't be unnecessarily inaccessible as well. But to that point, Mr. Kimson, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about your postpartum life and how things have changed, and some of the things that you're involved in and doing postpartum approval.
Well, I want to say this. You know, when we're young, I'm gonna speak for me because I can't speak for everybody. When you're young, you don't. I didn't realize how important my last name was. I didn't realize that my last name was the start of a legacy. You know, so when we're young and we go out here and we make these bad decisions, we make these mistakes as kids and as teenagers and as young adults, we don't realize how that affects us in the long run. You know, when we're younger and the environment that we come up in, we be wanting our names to be known for, you know, for things that we might be participating. If you're in the streets, you might want your name to be known for, you know, being tough or being bad and stuff like that. But as you get older and you start dealing in the real world and you got to get a job, you got to be able to provide for your family. You got to be able to make a way. Your kids got to go to school, and you don't realize how that last name, how powerful that is, how it can make or break something. So that's why this pardon is so important, because it gives us another chance to really change that narrative about, you know, the mistakes that we may have made in the past, or, you know, any decisions that we may have made that we instantly regret now. You know, my life before the pardon, I came home from incarceration. I did 8.5 years off a 10-year sentence, 5 years special parole, which is a 15-year sentence for armed robbery, possession of firearms and stuff like that. I was in the streets. I was in the streets due to confusion, due to, you know, not having that guidance, not having the real example of what a man should be and what a man should do. You know, I don't blame nobody because I did what I wanted to do. I did what I thought was right to me at the time. I came up, I graduated from high school, but I was angry. I was angry at a lot of different things. I was angry at what was going on in the household. I was angry at what was going on outside in the communities. Like, I was the brokest one out of all my friends. We talking about everybody trying to put together a couple of cents to make a dollar. You know, that's my story. Domestic violence in the house, drug addiction, alcoholism. You know, father not being there. Division between mother and father. So when he does come around, it's division. You know, when he tried to come around, it's division, and that's the environment that I came up in. So I seen nothing but chaos. Then on top of that, when you're dealing with lack of resources as far as mental health, youth programs, to where we got something outside of joining gangs and outside of fighting the people that live right next to us that's across the street. I'm from Stowe Village. Outside of beefing with Nelton Court, or beefing with, you know, somebody that's just up the street because we got nothing else to do. So as I got older, you know, I found myself becoming angry. I found myself becoming bitter because of the lack of opportunities, and watching, you know, some people make it out, or some people with mothers and dads, or some people, you know, finish school and go off and do their life, and wondering like why most of us don't. You know, so when I came home off of the the 8.5 years, I decided to come home better instead of bitter. You know, I felt like I needed to go through that. I needed to be humble. I needed to be sat down, and I did. And it was longer than I wanted. But as I came home, I said, you know what? I want to be a good father. In order for me to be a good father, I gotta be a productive member of society, staying out the police way, you know, not out here committing crimes, not out here using my emotions or making excuses because that's what it was, making excuses to do what I wanted to do, which was the wrong thing, you know. And a part of doing that helped me start dealing with the community, helped me start, you know what, let me be a solution instead of a part of the problem. I was a part of the problem. How can I be a solution now? You know, I came home, I got a job.
You effectively became the change that you wanted to see in the community.
Definitely. And it started with me. It started spiritually and mentally. as far as spiritually and mentally, it's not, to me, it's not about lip service. It's not about who you stand next to. It's not about being in a room full of powerful people and everybody on the outside looking in and they're still struggling. And they're like, yeah, it looked good. It looked good, but we're still struggling. And you know what this struggle feels like. You've been here. You understand what I'm saying?
Completely. I'm gonna hold you right there. I want to get to Tiana real quick. Tiana Hercules Esquire, you had your hand up. You wanted to interject for a moment.
No, I was clapping.
Okay. I thought you. Okay. No doubt. Okay, Mr. Kempson. I know earlier on, we had a brief conversation. You also mentioned becoming the chair for criminal justice in the NAACP, one of the chapters. You want to talk a little bit about that and kind of how your journey in the party has led to that, the work that you're doing?
Man, that that was a huge honor for me because I did 8.5 years. I got a little brother doing 40 years right now. I got another little brother in the system waiting to be sentenced. So, it's never gonna be over with me as far as criminal justice and as far as what can we do to navigate people away from the criminal justice system and stuff like that. And it was actually through Tiana, man. Tiana been huge for me. After I got the pardon, she said, I want to see what the journey's gonna be next. When I told her about the NAACP, and she had family members that was a part of the NAACP. One of her cousins is the president and the NAACP, so I got in contact with him, and I was on him. He's a busy man, running around trying to save the world and doing a lot in the community and stuff like that. And I just stayed on him, and we sat down, we talked, and he gave me some time. He said, "Listen, I want to see if you are who you say you are, and I want to see what you're doing." And I guess he said, "You know what? You're the man for this position." I got voted in. I came in on fire, but it's protocols, it's things that you got to go through the process. You know what I'm saying? But having the experience and going through the system and knowing what leads up to the system and knowing what can turn you away from the system, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I also told you yesterday, I spoke at the University of Hartford. It was for Champions for Children. And I spoke on Hartford and how beautiful Hartford is. How is greatness in Hartford. How we're not a charity case. How there are a lack of resources and stuff like that for us out here, but this is where the strength is at. You want to see some strong people. You want to see some people that have been through some things but that persevere and that's still here. Yeah, come to Hartford. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, it's about representing and not just talking about it. The NAACP is huge for me, and the pardon led up to that. It led up to people being like, wow, he had a past, he came home, he changed his life around, he got a pardon, and he's moving further and further. I was just offered to be on the state board of the criminal justice system yesterday after I gave a speech. So this pardon created a whole bunch of opportunities as far as self-esteem and believing in myself. And I brought other people to Tiana who they now got their pardons. And it's just like, if from their words, if I never seen you do it, I wouldn't have even thought about doing it. I would have just brushed it off like, man, black, we don't get pardons. We from the hood, we don't get pardons. You understand what I'm saying? So that was the beauty of it, being an example to other men, and some men older, some men younger, but just letting them know, like, listen, put forth the effort and really be about change and really be about helping people and doing the right thing. Good things can come up out of it, and this was beautiful. It was life-changing. When you do time, that time gonna always be with you. You know what you did as far as your time. You know the pressures that are put on you. You know the results. A lot of us come home with high blood pressure, hypertension. A lot of us come home isolating. Like the time, you could do the time or the time could do you, but regardless of what, we still come home with them after effects. A pardon will never take that away. A pardon will never take that away. $1 million will never take that away because you still have that experience. But what that pardon does do, it gives you a chance to be an example. I'm an example to my sons. So now I can make that last name, I can make Kempson mean something instead of police running into them. Oh, you're a Kempson, huh? Oh, yeah, your father, or your grandfather, or whoever. Yeah, they used to be out here. No, now it can mean something, and that's what I want to give back, and that's what I want to let people know. Like, listen, let's make our names mean something. Let's make our communities mean something because it's up to us. It's up to us now. It's a generation now that's lost. It's a generation now that don't feel no pain, that don't feel no remorse anymore. Is no love. Let's get them back. Let's try to get them back. Let's try to show them that. Listen, it's okay to make a mistake. You can come back from that.
Absolutely. I agree with many of the things you said. You can let the time do you, or you can do the time and come out with a plan and hit the ground running. And I don't think you are just an example. I would go farther to say that both you and many of the people doing this work, Attorney Hercules, are beacons of hope. And it's not missed upon me from my corporate background that having hope is one thing, but hope without an action plan is not going to get you far. Or as they say, faith, you can have faith, but faith without actions is not going to get you far. We have about 5 minutes left. I really want to dig in a little bit more into the Connecticut Pardons Day. Attorney Hercules, if you could just go into a little bit of what that's going to look like. You mentioned it's going to be in 6 different locations, utilizing venues of the community college and Connecticut State College system with those partners. The time frame is from 12 to 3, I believe. The website, I believe we have 2 websites. It's ctpardons.com and ctpardonsday.com. You want to talk a little bit about what folks will find on that page and how they can interact and be a part of this great initiative that we look to turn into an annual event?
Yeah, before I do that, Earl, thank you so much. Just want to thank Mr. Kempson for his time and sharing his story. Definitely a powerful testament of change and redemption and what you can do if you just decide to do it. And we have all these alibis and all these excuses, and trust me, I'm not saying that they're not some horrible things that happen to us, whether it be in our families or in our communities, but to be able to overcome it and to turn that around is the most powerful thing. And that should show you that there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that you can't do. And so just thank you for sharing your story. I'm really proud of you, and definitely looking forward to hearing all the great things that you're going to continue to do. But with respect to CT Pardons Day, yes, we are so excited to be able to, elevate this work, right? Being able to do it in one location is impactful, but the fact that we're going to be doing this in 6 different locations throughout the whole state, we're hoping to make an even greater impact. And so if you go to ctpardons.com, you'll be able to find information on how to register, whether you're looking for a pardon, whether you want to sponsor the event or volunteer at the event. Then there'll be forms for you to sign up to do one of those 3 things. There's some frequently asked questions about the pardons process that will be answered on there. And of course, how to get in touch with Earl, who is our coordinator and leading this initiative and helping us kind of stay on track. And yeah, so that day, I expect it to be, part information-based, part testimony and a call to action, and part really getting down to work to help people get the initial steps of this process, done so that they can get into the queue and start working on their pardons application. So we'll be giving information on how to make your application a winning application, best practices for the hearing, and then answering questions particular to people's personal, convictions history, and then getting people pre-enrolled with their fingerprints and so forth so they can get their background check and so we can get the process started. So there is like a small fee, $75 fee that people have to pay to request their background check. And during this day, we are, paying for that for folks, because even though I'm saying it's small, it can be a barrier to people. And so we are trying to eliminate as many barriers as possible so that as many people as possible can access this process and open their door to a second chance. So super excited about it. Go to ctpardons.com to learn more and get in touch with us, sign up. And June 18th, we're going to rock and roll.
Absolutely. And there we are at time. Thank you again, Mr. Kempson, for showing up and showing out, and sharing your story with us. Thank you very much for the hard work that you're putting in the community to give back. And Attorney Hercules, appreciate you. Thank you very much. As always, Tom Ficklin Show, we like to get the word out to the community and make the community work, doing this through teamwork. So again, thank you for the opportunity. And Harry, thank you for holding us down. Have a blessed day, everyone.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road.